So the Baltimore Ravens were close to making the playoffs this season. But unfortunately, in the final game, they were down against Cincinnati, but they were able to fight back to take the lead late in the game. But unfortunately, they couldn't hold a fourth down. Andy Dalton threw the touchdown pass to Tyler Boyd with less than 35 seconds left, which ultimately led to the Ravens missing the playoffs. But the Ravens could have got it done in other games, but they just couldn't get the job done by going to the playoffs. And honestly, what is the future of John Harbaugh? I think John Harbaugh is on the hot seat for next season. I think the Ravens don't go to the playoffs next season. I think he's out. So, as you can see in the draft board behind me, they have pick number 16. Now, the Ravens have pieces that are there that can be a decent team, maybe a playoff team next year. But the pieces that they don't have, it's pieces that they've invested picks and money in free agency in that haven't panned out. As you can see behind me on the draft board, I have wide receiver and offensive line as their probably what I think are going to be their two biggest looks with this pick. Because these are two positions that they need to work on. Wide receiver in particular. Now, I think they're only going to go wide receiver if Courtland Sutton is still there. And Courtland Sutton has been mentioned in the last couple of draft boards quite a bit. He's been mentioned in the Redskins, been mentioned in the Cardinals, and he's being mentioned here. And Courtland Sutton is going to be mentioned a lot because I've been saying, you're going to hear me say this a lot from until draft time. But I think Courtland Sutton is going to go around in the teens area. I think he'll go from maybe pick 12 or 13 to about pick number 19. I think that's where he's going to fall into. And once we get to that area of 12 to 13 to pick 19, that's where our eyes should be on Courtland Sutton. Because there's going to be a lot of teams looking at wide receivers. And the Ravens need to look at a wide receiver. Because Brashard Perriman, he was a first round pick a couple of seasons ago. But he has not panned out so far. And Jerry Maclin, he's been a bust this year. And Mike Wall's hitting free agency. So the Ravens got to look for a wide receiver. Give Joe Flacco a number one target to look at. Because they've let Torrey Smith go in free agency in the past. The Ravens just don't have a number one wide receiver to look at. And they have an opportunity to draft one in Courtland Sutton at pick number 16 if he's still available. But the second biggest thing they need, in my opinion, is an offensive line. Because offensive line is the most important position in all of football. Because the offensive line protects the quarterback. They make the holes for the running backs in the running game. And the Ravens may have two good pieces on the offensive line, but they got to build around that. The Ravens can build a decent offensive line. They can be in the playoffs. And that should be what their second biggest pick is. But will the Ravens also be looking forward to the future, maybe in the post-Joe Flacco era? Because ever since the Super Bowl that they won, ever since they won Super Bowl 47, the Ravens just have struggled to get past the divisional round. In fact, ever since that Super Bowl run, they have either not made it to the playoffs, or they have not. They have, in fact, they haven't made it past the divisional round ever since the Super Bowl 47 victory. So that is something. Maybe John Harbaugh's on his way out. I think he could be on the hot seat. But we'll see what happens, though. As far as the Ravens pick is concerned, go with Courtland Sutton, he's still available. Despite Courtland Sutton being mentioned in the last couple of draft boards, we're in the area of this little mock draft board series where Courtland Sutton is going to be considered being taken off the board. Because I think it might be too early for someone like James Washington or Christian Kirk. Maybe James Washington or Christian Kirk might improve their stock at the combine. They could go James Washington if Courtland Sutton's not there, or they can go O-line. As I've been mentioning, there's going to be plenty of offensive linemen to choose from. Unless they might be able to pick up an offensive lineman in free agency, I think they might go offensive line here as well. So those are the two options for the Ravens. I can't see them doing anything else other than one of those two positions. But we're going to see about that.